Welcome to today's algebra tutorial by Caz Academy. Today we will be looking at how to subtract polynomial functions. Let's say you're given the two functions f of x equals 3x cubed minus 2x squared minus x plus 4 and g of x equals minus x squared minus 3x plus 5. And your professor gives you the problem f minus g of x and wants you to solve it. What they're asking you to do is to take this first function, f of x, and then subtract the second function, g of x. And the way that we do that is the exact same way that we did it when we were subtracting polynomials. You're going to start with the first function. So the first function is our f of x, which is 3x cubed minus 2x squared minus x plus 4. And then we are going to subtract the second function. The second function is minus x squared. Oops, want to make sure that we are lining up our variables. So if you'll notice, the second equation, our g of x, does not have an x cubed. So I'm going to put a 0 there to show that I have a 0 coefficient in front of my x cubed. And then make sure that my variables are lined up. So the x squareds are lined up, the x's, and the constants. Now because I have a negative, that is the same as plus a -1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute that -1 to each of my variables. So what that invariably does is that when I distribute that, it's going to go and change each of those signs. So minus times a positive is a minus. -1 times another negative, so a negative times a negative makes a positive. A negative times a negative makes that positive. A negative times a positive makes that negative. So now I've changed it from a subtraction problem to an addition problem, and now I'm just going to go ahead and add all of those coefficients, each of the columns. For minus 5 is a -1. And that's a minus. Remember, whenever I have just a negative, that's the same as a -1. So -1 plus 3 is going to be 2. -2, if that x is by itself, that's the same as a 1. -2 plus 1 is going to be a -1. And 3 minus 0 is going to stay as a 3. So that tells me that my final answer for f minus g of x is going to be 3x cubed minus x squared plus 2x minus 1. And that would be my final answer. Now, if your professor gave you the problem of f minus g of 2, all they're asking you to do is to take those original equations, and everywhere that you see an x, you're going to replace that with the number 2, because that is the same as f of 2 minus g of 2. So I'm going to start with my f equations. So that's f, and instead of an x, I'm going to put a 2. And everywhere I see an x, I'm going to put the number 2. So that's going to give me f of 2 equals 3 times 2 cubed minus 2 times 2 to the squared minus 2 plus 4. So let's go ahead and solve that. 2 cubed is 8 times 3 is 24. 2 times 2, or 2 squared, is 4 times 2 is 8. Minus 2 plus 4, and then when I solve that, that is going to give me 18. So my f of 2 is going to be 24 minus 8 minus 2 plus 4 is going to give me 18. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my g. Everywhere that I have a 2, or everywhere that I have an x, I'm going to replace that with a 2. So that's going to give me negative 2 squared minus 3 times 2 plus 5. So that's going to give me 2 squared is 4. That's a minus 4. 3 times 2 is 6. Plus 5 is going to give me a negative 5. So g of 2 is going to give me a negative 5. So now when I plug that in, that's going to give me f minus g of 2. That's going to be the same as f of 2 minus g of 2. So that's going to be, I'm going to take my f of 2, which was my 18, and my g of 2, which is a minus 5. So that is 18 minus a negative 5, so that is the same as 18 plus 5, which equals 23. So that tells me that f minus g of 2 is going to equal 23, and that would be my final answer. Now, you can also do that. The other way that you can do that is if you, instead of plugging in the 2's at the beginning, is you can go down, if you've already solved the equation, done the subtraction, then you can plug them in to your formula with the variables where you've done, where you've already solved them. So that would be f minus g, and then we're going to plug in my 2. So we're going to take that original equation, and then everywhere that I have an x, I'm going to plug in a 2. So that's going to give me 3 times 2 cubed minus 2 squared plus 2 times 2 minus 1. So that equals 2 cubed is 8 times 3 is 24 minus 2 squared, which is a 4, plus 2 times 2, which is a 4, positive 4 minus 1, and that equals 23. So once again, we have f minus g of 2 equals 23. So that gives you two different ways to solve your problem if they give you a constant to replace your variable. So just to review, when you're subtracting polynomial functions, the f minus g of x is the same as taking your f of x minus your g of x. And you just need to remember that when you're doing the subtracting, that second function, you need to multiply that negative through every term that's in your equation, and then you can change it to an addition problem. If you have f minus g, and instead of a variable, they give you a constant, then everywhere you see your variable, you're going to plug in your constant, and then you're going to solve it exactly the same way. And that's how you subtract polynomial functions. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to get the latest videos by Caz Academy, and be sure to check out the links in the description for additional supports and resources.